Let's get started. All right, awesome. We know how I don't like to waste time. If anybody has any questions, please send them to Sanders since he is here and he created this beautiful thing. So, okay, I didn't know what to name this, so I thought it was cute. Webinar, WeMind, and our webinar number 3. So here we are, and let's get started. So our agenda today, we have an hour, and as you know, I talk fast. So we're going to be looking at just our review of the last 2 webinars. The first webinar is about using WeMind and the EMDR 8 phases. So I do a lot of trainings, put out hundreds of people, and I want them all to be able to get onto the platform and be able to do what they learned in their basic training. So as far as phases 1 through 8, AIP informed work using the 3-prong protocol, we've got the horizontal eye movements, and there's vertical eye movements that you can use just like you would with any 8-phase standard protocol. Also, this is a journey. This is a journey for all of us, including myself. And so I started a Facebook page, and Andy's going to put it in the chat. So join us, because I'm always putting stuff out there. I just put a really interesting, what I thought, answer to a question that I got in an email. And I'd love feedback, and I'd love to see what people think. I'm not a neurobiologist, and in my next life, I plan on it. But for right now, all I got is what I can find on the internet. So we're going to jump into some of that. We can't do anything without knowing how the brain works. We're so fortunate to have the information that we do have. So I will be mentioning the neurobiology of how working memory is assisting us with the work that we want to do. Trying to assess the outcomes according to what my clients are saying. I've been using this for over 2 months with my clients and myself. My own therapist has been using it with me. First of all, we have the research that tells us that we are processing more information than standard protocol. And so that is that has been seen. The SUDS drops very quickly, right away. And so we'll be talking about why that is and what that means for us. Quicker thinking and problem solving. My clients talk about what their week is like and how things are different. They're able to take, it takes 3 seconds to make a decision. And a lot of our clients come in and they're very impulsive because of that amygdala. And so if we're neutralizing that amygdala, we're able to think a little bit longer. We have the time in order to make a decision. And so I'm working at using it with addiction clients, and my addiction clients are really able to put language to this experience of just having a little bit more time and being a little bit more present. And then the richer experience to the world around you. It just seems to open things up. Like I said, when you're present, you can just basically feel like there's more space in your life. And yeah, once again, it's really hard to put language to these things. Our February our February webinar using WeMind, 8 phases. And then also Andy had put out in our email how you can get started. There's a 45 free days that are offered with the coupon code. And this is our way of saying, hey, we really believe in this product and we need you to just give it a try. I will tell you, there is a learning curve to this. There is no doubt. And then in March, we went into the neurobiology. It probably was boring, but that's okay. We know that the brain is plastic and that this plasticity can change the encoding by challenging the client's working memory load, which is called the ceiling effect. You can get online and see plenty of TED Talks and webinars and YouTube videos on working memory and how long it's been out there and how it's been debated and how they're using it to help children with ADHD and how they're using it for the elderly to assist with their cognitive facilities. I've got my mom using it. So there's a lot to be said. And so webinar 1 and 2, if you want to go back and look at those, you can get more information. So our goals today is I hope we can walk away here understanding how more information is processed and how we can get better solutions. We're really going to dive into what working memory does. And then once again, that richer experience to the world around you, being that you are more present. I think this is the key. I made this slide while I was thinking about WeMind and trying to figure out what is it about WeMind that works here, for me at least. I understand EMDR. I'm a basic trainer. I teach it. I memorized it. I know how to teach it. There's 3 action mechanisms. I understand. We use REM and eye movements over here in the States a lot, and we use the working memory theory. But working memory, what exactly is going on? So I thought this was, I'm a visual learner, and I thought this kind of explained everything. When your amygdala hijacked, you don't have access to your prefrontal cortex, which blocks the AIP, the adaptive information processing. But when you're using WeMind, you have access to both at the same time. And I think that that's the key here. So we're just going to move into that a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about the brain. I showed this video where the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex actually are blocked when you get distress. And that was in webinar number 2. So you can go back and see that. But just kind of to get us caught up, we have, when we are stressed, there is this biological change. And that comes from our polyvagal psychoeducation, where we're also doing a book study on polyvagal and EMDR. And our sensory input is transduced into electrical chemical signals. So this electrical chemical piece is really fascinating, because I'm doing some research also on havening. And it's interesting how, our brain is just a lot of electrochemical signals and hormones, for that matter, and that how it permanently gets stored is fascinating. So when we look at how an event is permanently encoded, we are knowing that when it's triggered, we have this data that's coming up. We have everything that's encoded with whatever that stressor is, whatever that polyvagal biological change is, and whatever the brain is doing as far as amygdala hijack can be encoded in a memory as well. And then when stressed, this amygdala once again blocks our access to our prefrontal cortex. One of the big things in the EMDR trainings is our our positive cognition, our positive belief. It is important, just as important, if not more important, that we have information that activates it. We call the positive cognition being anemic if we don't have enough in there. And that's where RDI comes from. That's where a lot of tools that we teach in the training. How do you strengthen and enhance that positive neural network? Well, with WeMind, you've got access to that 24/7. When you've got your client active on that phone or that tablet or the computer, they are constantly being brought to present time orientation while they're bringing up their distressing target. And we're going to get into that. So the idea is, let's keep that adaptive information processing model working while we're doing the work. I think that's where the 49% of more efficient than EMDR. And don't get me wrong, EMDR and our standard protocol and our 8 phases, it's awesome that we have both. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I think they're used differently. And I'll explain a little bit of that when we get there. So then back to what we're talking about here. When we have the hippocampus that is linked to the prefrontal cortex, that amygdala hijack, it actually comes in and it blocks it. So it interferes with any type of re-encoding of an experience. And that is what EMDR does. Our EMDR work is transformative. Our EMDR work is about changing perspective permanently. And so we don't change the memories. We just want to change the perspective. And so we need to get in and use our prefrontal cortex to do that. But if we're amygdala hijack, which is the whole point of bringing up a distressing memory, is you bring that distressing memory up with all of the biological changes that come with it, which is why polyvagal is so important. But that's not what we're talking about today. We have this blocked situation. So because the prefrontal cortex is blocked and that prefrontal cortex hippocampus conversation cannot be had, we have maladaptively stored memories. Okay, we cannot get them adaptively stored. That prefrontal cortex is not accessible, and we need it in order to adaptively store our memories into the long-term memory. Also interesting, because I'm working with a lot of addiction right now, the prefrontal cortex being not accessible, that means that this damper switch, and that language comes from Rebecca Case, is locked out. And that damper switch is what allows us to regulate emotions, behaviors, and impulses. We always say in addiction work that sober stands for son of a bitch, emotions are real. Let EMDR deal with the real. Well, here's the freaking damper switch that does this work. And we can access it while we're working with our clients and their level of urge to use and their level of craving. And we're really seeing some great results. So I'm super excited for my folks with substance use disorders. I'm a visual learner, so I had to throw in a visual because all that language is just a headache, but it's necessary. So here we have like our trigger, and our trigger is going to come in through all of our senses. And we know this with the EMDR because we can target what you hear. We can target what you feel. We can target what you taste. We can target what you smell. I've always heard that smell goes directly to the amygdala. So I appreciated this visual that said, okay, here we go. And this is why when you're looking to ground your client, if you can find something that, you know, like an essential oil that your client likes, we literally make essential oil combinations like lemongrass and peppermint. And you can have that for your client, put it on a cotton swab and just throw it in a Ziploc bag. It lasts for years. You can go straight to the amygdala and calm it down with something that can be very soothing. And this just gives us a visual on that. So that's just a little side note. But anyway, our information comes in. It comes in, it goes in through the thalamus. And that we call that our sensory sorting office. And basically the thalamus sends it to the amygdala. And this is where our problem is, because when the amygdala gets hijacked, that's going to be a SUDS of an 8, 9, 10. And you're not going to have access to where it's supposed to go next. If it's not a threat, then it just goes to the long-term memory to pull up more information from there. I always use dogs as an example. You know, if you have always had a great relationship with dogs and you see a dog, that's not going to be threatening. And so all that information gets consolidated. Consolidated, read Bruce Eckert. It's a thing. We're lucky to have it. And then if it is a threat, like got bit by a dog at the age of 5, off it goes here. And it locks out what would happen if it could go onto the prefrontal cortex. Once again, this is WeMind. It holds both of these roads accessible at the same time. So I want to repeat, the amygdala hijack would normally shut down the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. But WeMind holds, I'm just, you know, driving a lot up to my training up in Gurnee, holds that toll gate up manually while the amygdala is activated, which is super cool. This allows the engagement between the amygdala and that prefrontal cortex while you have your distressing target activated that's got the amygdala hijack going. That is what we've got going here, which is really exciting. This allows engagement between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, which means that our AIP reconsolidation is no longer blocked and can do its job. So if we want to know why 49% more efficient, you got it right here. So there's some things that aren't happening. Like I said, these tools are different than our standard protocol, and they're both necessary. But this is what's here, and this is what I think is what I'm loving about using it. Like I said, with my addiction clients right now, I use it for a crisis case last week. I hope I get to it. It was amazing. So we're looking for that natural healing process of the brain to be activated at the same time as we're working with the distressing target. So just imagine the client bringing out that distress. So you got like a long-term memory search going on, right? Oop, and then there's a distressing moment. You pull it out, and then you have that distressing moment here. It activates the amygdala hijack, which means that my prefrontal cortex is no longer available, and yet it is. So, okay, what happens next? So once again, had to throw that visual in there. This is the area that we're focusing on now. We've got the non-threat roads open, superhighway, information superhighway, they call it. And we have the amygdala hijacked at the same time. So how can we use WeMind to fix this while reprocessing distressing targets with our clients? I like that visual. Okay, so now here we are with the science of the working memory theory. And I did pull this slide from webinar 2, because I hope that if you haven't seen webinar 2, you'll go back to it. I talk just as fast, so I'm sure you missed something, because we only retain 20 to 30%, add visuals, and it's up to maybe 35 to 40%. But anyway, the science, the working memory theory, all of the journal articles that Sandra has provided for us are on my website. And Andy, you can put that link in there as well. the prior webinars with the articles that go with them. And so we're going into the language that's used when we're using working memory. So there's the visuospatial sketchpad, and then there's the phonological loop. So one is visual, okay? One is going to be audio. And then we have what's called the episodic buffer, which will link, bind, or connect the data that you get visually and that you get from the audio component. And so here is the screen that the client gets when we're doing this work. And here is the visual here, and then here's the audio. And this is what comes up on a phone. So it's nice because the clients feel like they're playing a video game. So Badley, he's our main guy when it comes to working memory. And like I said, you can read more about him. He's the articles that are on my website. You can get it from a lot of different places. But anyway, he's our guy. And this is where we're looking at how we're going to take the information that's desensitized and how it is time-stamped and sent to the long-term memory. So let's remember, we can't timestamp a long-term memory agreed upon target unless we have neutralized the amygdala. So neutralizing that amygdala means that we've gone from a SUDS of an 8 to a SUDS of a, let's just say 0 for this example. And once that amygdala is neutralized, you store it, you timestamp it, because remember, all our trauma memories are not timestamped. You timestamp it and you put it in that long-term memory. And I think it clicked for me when I was watching Ed DeJean, and he said, and then when you go back to that ticker tape, I used to work in the markets, and so I remember like the bond prices and the stock prices, that ticker tape's going around and around and around in that long-term memory. And you're like, where is that disturbance? It's not there anymore. There is no SUDS anymore. Now it is appropriately stored in the long-term memory with a timestamp, which means it is adaptively stored, which is what our adaptive information processing model does to begin with. So once again, we're talking about this increase in being efficient. So working memory, had to throw in a visual of working memory. We're not going to get too into this. That's my job. So the long-term memory can be accessible with this working model system. And so here we've got the visual piece. And once again, here's our visual piece working with our clients. And then we have the audio piece. And here's the audio piece working with our clients. Literally, you're going to be tapping on the right side of the screen when the circle turns into a cylinder. You're going to be tapping on the left side of the screen when you hear a sound. And then you also access another part of the brain, which I haven't figured out yet, because the circle changes colors. So you have the client tapping, red, blue, green. I'm always trying to manipulate it. And then you've got the AI component that's going to increase and decrease the workload for the client based on their responses. So there's a lot of good stuff going on here. But the idea is that when you have all of this going on with our target, it goes to the long-term memory. And that is the key. That is what we want. That is what I teach in the first hour of our basic training. We want our maladaptively stored memories, frozen or isolated, to be desensitized and then timestamped and stored in that long-term memory with the rest of our memories. Because we can't change what happened in the past, but we can change how we respond to it, and we can change our perspective. And so how do we say that? We can observe it and not absorb it. And that is what trauma work is. And we're going to do that with our therapist. So we're still in relationship and not alone. So working memory is the combination of the left brain, the phonological loop, and this is where the language piece is, and the right brain. So you've got the visual spatial sketchpad. And so, and we can strengthen that connection. They literally talk about working memory as a muscle and how we can strengthen it. And we can be helping all those poor children in school that can't pay attention, because at this point, you know, trauma therapy, I don't even know what to say when it comes to the children, because all the adults need it too. Everybody needs trauma therapy at this point, especially after the pandemic and all the dissociation that we're seeing after the pandemic, because all of us were in an inescapable situation where we did not feel safe, which is where dissociation comes from. And so now that we've got so much dissociation out there, this is just a beautiful way to be able to keep that left brain and right brain, that dual attention that we're constantly talking about. We want that dual attention in order for us to do the work we need to do anyway, right? And that's where EMDR 2.0 came into the country. And I think it was 2019, when we started to realize that if we could count backwards by 10, or if we could, spell our name backwards 3 times, that we were literally keeping the client in their left brain while they were accessing the horrific experience in their right brain. And that's where the healing comes in, that left and right brain connection, putting language to a nonverbal experience, for example. And once again, let's think about this. The nonverbal experience is going to be where the amygdala is because of the hijack, and the language is going to be in that prefrontal cortex. And that information superhighway is open now. It would provide us with healing by retrieving information that is accessible in the prefrontal cortex. So that's the key here. Okay, I know this is a lot of words, and I don't want you to read it. It's on Facebook right now. I got this email from somebody last night. And of course, why would I want to sleep? So the email said, what's the difference between the amounts of bilateral that we do with standard protocol and the WeMind working memory? Because when I was advising this therapist, I was saying, well, with standard protocol, you're still going to do your same, we teach EMD, EMDR contained and unrestricted, and it's a different amount of seconds for each one. I'm like, you stick with that. And the reason why you stick with that, and I'm just going to kind of highlight the language here because this is literally my answer, is that when we're doing eye movements, okay, what we teach, there's 3 action mechanisms, and one is going to be that REM sleep. When you are crossing over the midline, you are activating the corpus. I think I spelled that. Oh, you know what? That's the wrong word in there. Corpus callosum. Maybe that was because it was late. You're activating that corpus callosum, and when you activate the corpus callosum, it activates the right brain. So that was like the big thing when EMDR first came out. It's like, oh my gosh, we can be in the right brain and the left brain at the same time, which is exactly what we're doing with WeMind. Except for when we do this, we bring up memory content. All right. We always teach in our trainings, the longer you go, the more trauma memories that are going to come up. So I'm not going to recommend doing longer sets on WeMind if you're doing standard protocol. But it's different when we're using the working memory action mechanism. Because when you're doing working memory and your eyes are darting all over the place because it's random, it's not going to be a bilateral. And you can, I forget the guy's name, Huberman, I think it is. He's got a really interesting video about eyes darting. It increases our workload with visual and the phonological tasks. So you've got the eyes darting all over the place. You've got the tapping on the screen. When you hear a sound, you've got tapping on a screen. When the cylinder is changing into a circle, you're tapping or you're speaking to what color it is, and you're thinking about this horrific incident. This is working memory theory, where we are desensitizing with distraction. That's what working memory is. That's very different than horizontal line movements. The concept is to bring up that distressing memory, and then as you add more distractions, also known as the workload ceiling effect, Sander, that's for you. It forces the intensity of the disturbance to decrease because our working memory can only hold so much at once. And I think I finally found an analogy that works for me. If you have a really short bookcase and you have 4 books up on it, it's your trauma memories. Every time you add a book, one's going to fall off. And that's kind of how it works with working memory. It can only hold so much, and you can only do so many things at one time. And so there really is this significant drop in the SUDS that we see immediately. And so that in itself is worth checking out. So we have less memory retrieval and a faster neutralization of the amygdala with WeMind. And that's with the random eye movements. So, and then this assists with our complex clients that are dissociative because it keeps them present. It keeps them in dual attention. It keeps them here with us and accessing that left brain, that prefrontal cortex, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that was my answer on Facebook. So here we are once again with the client screen. All right. And this is going to be the audio, and this is going to be the visual. And this is the, like I said, the phone version. Because my clients love the phone, love doing it on the phone. They sit in my office. They're right across from me on their phone. I just bought a laptop so I can look at them because my computer is here. And I'm like this, and now I can be like this. They all come in and ask for it. So it's great. And if they can't make it, I could do it as a virtual, and I do it virtually with a couple clients, but for the most part, I'm doing it in the office, mostly because this is new and I probably want to observe them. So we're going to look at detail, and I had promised that this time I was going to pull the WeMind up and we were going to actually look at it. And so I always run out of time. So this time I planned accordingly. And so this is going to be our visual, and you're literally clicking on the visual, and we're going to see what this looks like in a minute. And then you're clicking on the audio, and it's fun. I do it in my therapy. Love that my therapist was willing to go out and be vulnerable and do this with me. It's great. And so I have fun. I'm always competing with myself. I always ask her what my AI number is, even though you don't tell your clients there is such a thing. I know what clients are the fastest. My PhD chemistry major over at a local university, he's the fastest. It's pretty cool. Anyway, and then here's our visual components, right? We have, we're able to turn them on, we're able to turn them off. We're able to check what, to do whatever color you want. I'm a Michigan State Spartan, and one of my clients is as well. And so I was doing green and white back and forth. And at one point he stopped and he said, I think you're having more fun with this than I am. And I was like, oh, but it was fun. If you can laugh during your drama work, like, why not? So we can turn our visuals on. Here's our AI component that's going to speed it up and slow it down according to the response of the client. We have ball speed here. So if you're doing a standard, you can increase that ball speed. And we can also put it on horizontal, vertical, or random down here. So I have it on random with the AI. If I want to do horizontal, I'm going to do standard protocol. I just move this to manual, and I pick what ball speed I want. I can do a really fast ball speed, or I can do a really slow ball speed if I want to strengthen and enhance a positive. Because they give you pictures of beaches and mountains and sunsets, et cetera, that you can pull up in a heartbeat, as opposed to this office. So we've got the random, the horizontal, and the diagonal, the speeds. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else here on this page. I think this pretty much works it. Here's the visual component. Also, you can see your client very easily if you want to. Like I said, most of mine are in my office. And we have this way to strengthen and, record the VOC and the SUDS. I got to be honest with you, though, not using this, too time consuming for me, just going to put it out there. But I am putting all of my notes here, and then I cut and paste it at the end of the session and throw it right into my Theranos, and bam, I'm done. It's awesome. So, but anyway, this is what the visual looks like. And this is the cylinder, and it goes from a circle to a cylinder, circle to a cylinder. Horizontal looks like this, diagonal looks like this. Random is going to be all over the place. It just kind of bounces. And this is going to be just our eyes darting around, as opposed to a crossing the midline. All right, that's the difference between our standard protocol and what we're doing here. And so, like I said, here's our notes, and let's see what else we've got. We're actually going to go in and finally see this. Here's our audio. So just a heads up, audio number 1 is preferable. This totally throws my clients into another type of amygdala hijack where they want to throw their phone across the room. But so stay on the default here. This is a good one. You can listen to these and see if there's something there. You can turn the volume up and down here, but I do have the clients start really low on their phones. And then you can control your visual and your audio here. This is where you're going to turn it on. We're actually going to go in and do this in a minute so that you can see it. And then last but not least, I love this because it tells me how my client's doing. And it's not that I want them to perform well, but I can tell by their attitude. My clients come in, they're video gamers, or maybe they're just competitive, or maybe they just want to do things right. And I can tell that they're getting frustrated. And I know they're not hitting it because here it says ball speed decreases. Here's no click detected. And I'm looking for blues and greens to be coming up on my screen, which means that the AI component is increasing. And I'll even I'll even put out there like, okay, it's going to be getting faster, as you're just stay focused. I don't say you're doing great because I would never want to imply there isn't great, but this is the AI component. Okay, so I have time, and I'm very challenged when it comes to technology. So I told Andy I cannot be amygdala hijacked when I go to do this because I'm actually going to pull it up so that we can see it. And then are there any questions coming in? I saw that Roxana joined and she's using it on a regular basis. And so if you wanted to send a question to Roxana, you could send a question to her as well. So once again, we have Sander here, who is the creator of all of this amazing stuff. And I am going to, you can, Roxana, will you speak for a minute, just speaking to your experience while I go in and I'm going to start setting this up?
Absolutely. So my experience with it has been that it helps the clients lower their stats much faster. I do have the light bar and I have used the light bar before. I find that WeMind is just more effective, like in helping the clients reduce the stats faster. I used my one, the one that stands the most is my one patient who has a diagnosis of OCD and wouldn't touch a garbage can, or just the thought of touching the garbage can and the germs would dysregulate her. And using WeMind, she was very hesitant. Nope, it's not going to work. We worked through that, and then she was able to not touch the garbage can, but at least went out to buy new clothes, to touch every surfaces from different stores, which she was not able to do before. And she bought 2 new books from Barnes and Nobles that she chose herself and was able to open it. So it was amazing to see that change.
It is. It is. We see some really amazing results.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So this is just the link that I opened. You just put it in your browser and your bookmarks and you just open it up, and you can do this right before the right before your session and send it to your client. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to show you how I would send this to my client. So everybody can see this, right? Hi, Joel. All right. So here we go. I'm logging in because I've got everything saved. And here we go. And so here's where I can access the microphone and the camera. Now, I have to go in and change the setting for mine. I forgot. Andy told me why it wasn't working.
Yeah, so we're on Zoom using your mic and your camera.
That's right. I knew it was a
won't let us
logical
double dip.
reason. It wasn't on me. You'd think I would know that. All right. So here I have the link. So I'm going to copy the link. And then I'm literally going to go in, and I don't know if it'll stay as a shared screen, and you just don't be horrified by the mess on my computer. It looks like my closets, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to send myself the link. Right. So paste. Right. And then I would do this with my clients. I do not text my clients. So DR Chicago. Okay. And then I would just say, link for today's session. All right, great. And then I would send, even though I don't even say that, but okay. Now here it is. It shows up in my email. So what I'm going to do for us here, because I'm going to be my own client, it's not the first time. I'm going to go in and I'm going to open it up on my phone, and then you're going to see what it looks like on the phone also. Okay. Let me make sure, because I did try this a number of times. There I am. Link for today's session. Thank you very much, Paula Marucci. It says, please rotate your device. So I'm going to rotate it. Make sure the rotation is there. If it doesn't rotate, it won't work for some reason. Well, I guess I know why. And now I'm clicking on table and mobile. So let me put me over here. And here is my WeMind. So there I am as the therapist. And now I'm coming in as the client. It's telling me visual task on the right, audio task on the left, proceed. So now you can see that I have the same living room here. And I have my right is going to be my visual. It's got a little eyeball there, right? And then on the left is going to be the audio. Okay. So now put this over here in my little stand. Then the next thing that I do is I just ask the client. I like to change the color because gray is not my color. So I'll change the color. Let's say I have my Spartan in there. And so I just say, can you see the ball? Okay. Now, I'm going to try not to activate too many people. But let me see here. Hold on. I just want you to see this, what it looks like. Okay. And then there's the green ball. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, good. All right. Now, I do like to turn off that sound, the error sound. No errors for our clients. Okay, now what I do is I have the client. Okay, I'm going to go into my my email, and I'm going to pull up, where is it? I'm going to do a addiction protocol. So you can take any protocol you want. And I like addiction. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to type it right into my notes. Paste right here. Okay. So what are we going to do today? Oh, I'm working with my client on food. I already filled this out. I did this with my client last week. So I thought, all right, history at nights, trigger, bedtime, internal resource state. We've already took a resource state. Sandra has a lovely picture of a beach. And so we took the beach and we did the slow bilateral. Well, hell, I can show you. It's right here. There's our beach. There it is. And you can take your slow sets of bilateral and we can strengthen and enhance like we would at any, in our trainings, we do Laurel Purnell. So I just have I use a yellow, it looks like a sun coming across the horizontal. And then I'm doing, the client is saying, I'm at the beach, the water's beautiful, there's sand under my feet, blue skies, wonderful breeze. And so we're doing the strengthening and enhancing here on the screen with our slow short sets of bilateral. You can upload any picture you want. So I have a client, I have a picture of a client's husband with the 2 daughters on his lap. I have a picture that came from my client's vacation in Hawaii. So you can do what you want, or you can go online and find pictures with your clients and upload them. The only thing we haven't talked about yet with Sandra is how to keep them there. We have to bring them in each time, but that's okay. Got to pick and choose your battles. So I'm going to go
And
back.
that's on purpose, Paula. Maybe good to talk about.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Tell us.
Like we don't want to process any personal health information, so that's why we don't save the notes, and also that's why we don't store those images, because a therapist could upload any type of content. So it could also be a picture of a person that we don't want to store in GDPR
Oh, that's a
rules.
good
So
point.
it's HIPAA compliant, so we don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
All right.
why.
Yep. So there, my client's husband's out. Okay. I have them saved in my folder, so it's not a big deal. Good. Thank you for that. Glad you were able to explain that. Okay. So now I'm back in my office here, right? And so I've got my client's positive, a resource. I would love to be able to bold here, but I can't. And that's okay. I just wanted it here so you could see it. So we've got the beach. That's the name of it. I also strengthened my client envisioning themselves at their positive treatment goal of being healthy. This is a detour. So it's not anything that I'm making up here. And so, I can take a healthy picture and put it up there, and I can make it big and I can make it small. I can do whatever I want with it. You have a lot of options. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start my trigger desensitization. So I asked my client to identify some triggers. I can usually get 2 to 3 done in one session at least. So for the detour protocol, the first one is, this is a client that eats at night. Turning off the lights is the first trigger. I have a SUDS of a 10. And so then I'm going to go in and I'm going to have the client, I have them visualize a snapshot of the worst moment. And they're like literally turning out the light and they can feel this like pull to the kitchen. So that's what our target is. So I'm going to go over here. And if you wanted to mess around with these, you could absolutely go in and say, okay, it's a 10. There it is. And it's going to be recorded and then you can cut and paste it later. So I'm going to have my client focusing on that snapshot. All right. And then I'm going to start the bilateral here and it's going to be on random and I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to do a slow ball speed so that I'm not going to be messing with any of you guys. So I can make it pink, or it's purple actually. I can make it blue. I can make it white. I can make it rainbow. And rainbow's fun because when it's rainbow, you have the client report what color it is that they're seeing. And the colors change randomly. And you can change the color speed. So let me just speed this up a little bit. Here we go. Changing this color. Of course,
So Paula, it
Yeah.
is not changing, and I could explain why. You
Okay,
see on
good.
the right top corner that the session ID is red. You see that?
Oh, I
That
didn't.
is
Oh,
because
yep.
you're not connected with your phone. So probably
There
we
it
have to
is.
reconnect. So you can
Yep.
pause it.
It's there. I just had to click on it. All right, here we
Exactly.
go.
Let's see if this
There
is
you go.
we lost.
Oh, I'm so
There
glad
we
you're
go.
here, Sander. It's on my list because I
No
can't tell you
problem.
how many times that happens. All right, so as you can see, the colors are changing. All right, and it's great because my client will say green, blue. And so right now I am, if I wanted to click, see, and you can see me clicking here, the gray visual response. If I click on it when it changes shape, it will come up and it will click blue. And if I want to add, let's see here, see, I know this is going to be a little complicated, but I'm okay with it. All right, so I've got the Visi, and now I'm going to put the audio, right? And here's the audio. And I'm going to make sure, now you're not going to be able to hear the audio from me because you can't, the laptops are made so well that, hold on, I have to redo it. There we go, rotate. One of the things that Sander just pointed out, up here in the right corner, this is what tells me if I'm connected or not. And I don't use that enough, apparently, because I was not connected. So once again, I'm going to slow this down and I am going to change the colors. And I'm going to be clicking on it when it changes shape, which it's going to take forever to do because Sander.
Do it, of
Yeah.
course.
Of course. Okay. Yeah, and you can't hear the sound. So I'm clicking, you can see it coming up on the bottom here, down here. As I'm
Yeah, so
clicking.
exactly. When you see on the visual response and the audio response, you see gray flickering or you see other colors, that means that Paula is pressing the buttons.
Yeah.
So if she's doing it randomly, what we see right now, so if you would start the task later, then you would see colors if she's on time or if she's not on time. So that will is a good indicator for you that your client is doing it right or wrong, if there is a right or wrong.
Yep, right. So, and I like the fact that I can turn it on and off down here, and I can turn it off up here. And you guys, this is hard for me to do right now because I'm doing both tasks. If you're just the therapist, it's a lot easier. Okay. All right. I'm gonna start.
So if you press it, Paula, yeah, do your thing.
There we
So
go. I'm doing
see
it now. Yep.
we
Yep.
see it blue flickering, and blue
Yep.
means that she's responding fast. So the
Yep.
pulse speed
And I'm
would go
competitive,
up.
so it's gonna get
Yeah.
faster.
But you
I'm
don't
getting
have it
good at it.
on. Oh, you have it on adaptive. So now it's going up. That's
Yep.
good.
And so the speed increases as I'm getting, and then I'm also going to add blue, purple, white, gray, white, red, oops, yellow. And I do this for about a minute. Okay, this was the question that was on my Facebook. And then I will stop it and I will have the client breathe in, exhale out. Maybe I'll do a 3-3-3 or a little havening, whatever I do to ground them. Not that they need it because they're already present. And then we'll go back to the visual representation. And then I will ask my client what's coming up for them. And I'll ask them 0 to 10, how distressing is it now? Let's say it's now going to be a 6. And then I'm just going to add that. So, something like that. There we go. And then I put it's going down, hit okay, and then it goes to 0. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Now we have the idea where we can do random. We can also do diagonal, which is fun. Okay. Let's turn it a color that you can see. You can also make it horizontal. Here we go. There we go. Okay. The sounds, like I said, just stick with this option. You can turn the volume down. There's a third option for distractions. It's just a clicking sound. If you want, working memory can hold from, they say 3 to 5, or is it 5 to 7 things at once. So I'll turn it on, I'll turn it off. And so I think when I've got my, my notes here, I will have put in here how the suds dropped. I will put in here what the client experienced, and then I will go in and then it says install the positive state. Once again, this is detour. So I'm going to go to the background. I'm going to put up my beach, and then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to make it a sun. I turn my ball speed manual, and then I hit start. And then there's my sun. And I'll say, I want you to feel the sun under your toes. I want you to feel the breeze on your face. And then what I'm doing is I am still needing to click, even though it's not very often. Turn the audio off. And I'm still clicking while I'm feeling the sand under my toes, while I'm feeling the breeze on my face. So I am assured, and especially with an online venue, I am assured that my client is present. I'm absolutely assured that they're present. So once again, is the learning curve on here a little bit time consuming? Absolutely. I'm not going to tell you you're going to jump on this and you're going to figure it out right away. Is it worth it? Absolutely. It is so freaking worth it. I can't even tell you. I am not the type of person, I wasn't looking for anything online. I don't need to complicate my life at all. And it was, you know, this has been amazing. Obviously, I'm putting a lot of time into this. I'm going to throw out a couple more things that we can do. There is an exposure component out in the Netherlands, and Ed DeJean and Dr. Susie Matheson have always talked about the how they do exposure CBT out there. And that's fine. You can expose your client, activate them, and then you can desensitize it, or you can desensitize it and then pull up an exposure to see how they're doing with it. And so here they have a whole library of things. I'm not going to get into some of these because they're pretty triggering, but there's a whole library of stuff here. And you can pull it up for the client. You just are going to click on it. And then once it goes up, it will show up on the client's screen. And when it shows up on the client screen, you can play the video. And while you're playing the video, first of all, you can change the size of it, and you can have your random bilateral moving around. So that's super cool. I was working with one of my eating disorder clients, and I think I showed in the last video that you could put Twinkies. I put Twinkies up there. And we started with them small, we made them bigger. We had her doing the sound and the visual all over the place. And then, you know, her eating disorder therapist was amazed. She went home and ate a Twinkie. Now, I don't really understand that. I'm not an eating disorder therapist, but when you have a fear food and you're supposed to eat it, I mean, maybe, I'm not really sure. Maybe that's why I'm a trauma therapist. What I do seems easier than that. So, okay, so I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes for questions and also for Sander to add whatever Sander would like to add. Because the other cool thing is you get like a present every time they update it, because it just shows up. And so whenever there's an update, I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome, because it's so much easier. It used to be that we had to do a lot of things to get our clients engaged, and we don't anymore. So I did not activate my phone, but you would see your client there, and you literally don't even need to use, I use Zoom a lot, but anyway. Okay, Sander, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Paula. Really good demonstration. Thanks for that. There's some nice things coming, I would say, besides like this, as Paula described, the algorithm doing a lot of work and being more efficient and more effective. There will be coming a new algorithm in the short term that has increased working memory stimulation that we studied in the university here. You will have a much faster sweet spot targeting than with this algorithm. Like in this algorithm, Paul, I'm not sure if you recognize this, but it can take a minute. So the slider goes up till the point that you're there. Now we have found a way to do that in the first 5 or 10 seconds. So you will be even faster with optimal taxation. And that will be coming. So if you have the subscription, it will be coming, as well as more backgrounds and other things. And one thing was fascinating about the slides. There were 4 senses, like eyesight, ear. There were 4 things, and we're targeting the verbal one, the audio one, the eyes one, and also the other one was, I think, tactile. So beeping and trilling, and we're working on a module for that as well, because your phone can buzz as well. It's a really complicated one. It is really complicated because there's 1,000 different phones, but we're working on it. So that will be something for the long term. But then we're
That's
targeting
awesome.
all those 4 elements, and I think that's awesome.
That really is awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And like the only thing I want to request, and you guys that are here, and especially if you know me, is wait, I just have to put this up. I laugh. I tell people all the time, I want another chair over here so we can do the two-handed interweave. So I think I'm always putting parts work in WeMind are amazing. And we put the part in the chair here, and that works beautifully. But when we do the two-handed interweave, and remember, a two-handed interweave is having the adult part and the child part there, working with them together. And so it'd be nice if it would be fun if we had another picture, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure at some point we'll figure that part out. And then doing it with polyvagal has been kind of cool too. I've been using it more with the parts just because I'm doing IFS training right now, and so that would be my thing. But okay, so any questions coming up?
Yeah, there's one about the protocol, Paula, that you just copy and paste in the notes part. I think that's a great way of doing that. Somebody asked, can I upload one and it will be saved? Short answer would be, you cannot upload anyone, so a user cannot do that, but we can do that. So Paula, on the right side, those 3 dots, if you click on that.
Yeah. Oh, I've never clicked on that before.
It will enter tip code. So this is a new feature. We just released it. We're going to give you some codes later on where a protocol is saved behind. So if you have
it's
the
Christmas
code,
again.
yeah. So if you have the code Paula, for example, that doesn't work now, and you enter that, it will upload and show the protocol.
I have Parnell's protocol. I don't know, maybe you shouldn't tell her now, but I have Parnell's protocol and Detour's protocol that I use all the time. That's freaking amazing. Okay.
We only have to get permission from the author to do that. So we now have the Dutch standard protocol loaded. So we're working on that. So that will be something that will be added in the short term.
Okay, that's awesome. That's wonderful. All right, and that's super easy because you can do the whole protocol in one session.
If they want to use your protocol, Paula, so if you make one, like say an example of how to do it in WeMind, you send it to us, we'll upload it, and your Chicago people can use it.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, anybody who wants it, I do a lot of consultation and they all have it. I email it to them. So anybody who wants it, just send me an email at emdrchicago@gmail.com and I'll send it to you, today. It's amazing. And it's, I can't tell you the successes that we're having with this, and the Parnell consequences protocol is really cool too. So I just have a lot of hope for our eating disorder and clients that are struggling with any type of addiction. May it be, I'm working with a client that's addicted to sex, and we've got, like I said, the eating disorder, we've got alcohol, we've got vaping, eating, a lot of eating. So you name it. And then I want to tell a really quick story. I had a client last week, and she's one of my tester clients. And I literally have shown them who Sander is and the work that they do out in the Netherlands. They have more than 50% of the EMDR research out there, and they have the largest PTSD clinic in the world. So, I have a lot of faith in the work that they do. And so my client had a shooter situation in her school last week. Horrible, horrible situation. And I'm just going to make this quick. But she was in the closet in the dark with all of her kids there. The kids are using her phone to text their parents to say goodbye. The door is supposed to lock and it's not locked. And so she's literally holding the door. And it was just the most traumatic. This is a client that's been thinking about that she's going to die in her work anyway. Most teachers do at this point. And so, and then the door starts to get pulled and she's like, that's it, I'm dead. And the door gets pulled open because the person on the other side was really strong. And it was the police with their weapons up. What the frick? So anyway, with that being said, she came in that night and she told me the story. We broke the story into 3 pieces. And she told the story over and over and over and over. And every time we came to a place where she was shaking so bad, that's where we targeted. We did this with WeMind. I had WeMind going for, 30 minutes probably, stopping, taking a breath, just grounding her, checking in, going back. 2 sessions. And she told me, she goes, She thought he was from Sweden. She's like, go tell, your buddy in Sweden that this thing is amazing. And this is a very dissociative client, very dissociative. So there's a lot of hope here. This week, what we're working on is each one of the frickin' text messages that the kid sent. They're in her phone. So I took pictures of all of them. And now we're just going through the pictures and we're using WeMind just to desensitize, just to get in there and neutralize that amygdala. Because neutralizing the amygdala, and she loves being on the screen, it is the only thing that keeps her whole body from going into a dorsal vagal shutdown. We've got the colors going, and we're tapping on the right, we're tapping on the left, and she's a Spanish teacher, so I've got her spelling backwards in Spanish. We're doing it all, and it is amazing. So there you have it. With 4 minutes left, any final thoughts, comments? Sander, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. There's one thing, just today, there's a new case study published in the Frontiers, done on our app in a complete online treatment setting for complex PTSD. It's one published by Susie Matthijssen just today. So I will send you that, and you can put it on your website as well.
Yep. Yep. And you guys,
Cool.
45 free days. The reason why they're doing this is so you guys we believe in this. So just get signed up, get practicing. The learning curve is there. I'm going to do some evening hours where you show up for an hour and we're just going to screw around with it. And so I'll be putting that out. I'm thinking of doing a Monday night. So anyway, we appreciate everybody coming. And if you have any further questions, you can hang out for the final 2 minutes. You can just unmute yourself if you have anything that you want to ask. Hi, Yuko. Hi, Danye. Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say amazing, as always.
Love you.
I just love these. I love these. It's so educational.
Excellent.
I appreciate them.
You're one of my biggest fans.
I am. You see me here.
I do. And it was great talking to you over the weekend too.
Likewise.
Okay, Andy, you want to stop the recording?